This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. Trust me, I'm like a smart person. I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius. I had the best words, tolerate. I know words. Mike Pounds. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation. But there's no better word than stupid. And anomalous, really anomalous. I'm very highly educated. One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. Had the best words. God bless the United States.
Out in the nation, Waldorf Nation, everybody, welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, December 1st. We're in a new month. Welcome to the show. Hopefully everybody had a safe and happy Thanksgiving holiday. Hopefully. I hear millions of Americans did not. Because they decided to go and travel, millions of people. So we're going to wait about 2 weeks on that one, and then report the disastrous coronavirus surge, which, again, we are already in the middle of a surge, so it's only just going to get worse. Does it sound a little weird? It should be okay. It should be all right. Getting used to the new microphone setup and all that stuff, so it sounds a little different. I'm still like working on it. But anyway, where do you get what song? What song, Robert? The Trump song? I put that together myself. And so, you know, let's see. Mic is a bit hot. Gotcha. Sometimes I've noticed that it kind of does that. So here, let me fix that real quick here. We're doing it live. We're just going to bring it down just a little bit. That was too much. How's that sound? Good? Better? I think it's Windows. Windows has a tendency to way overdo things. Oh, yeah, it does. Holy shit. All right, hold on. Does anybody know how to stop Windows from automatically setting things? Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, now we've got better sound here. All right, cool. Should be good now. Thanks. You know what? It's good that we do it live. Got a little bit of help here. Is it too low now? No, some people are saying too low, some people saying too high. Okay. I'm lower but less distorted. That's fine. So we should be good about here. All right. So anyway, yeah, there's a okay. Much fuzz. Is it though? Is it doing a little bit better now? I don't know. I've got like conflicting reports here. So, all right, we're cool. All right, anyway, that's a hell of a way to start the show with sound issues. So I need to double check that stuff before I get started. But we should be set for right now. All right. Get a third-party sound app. Yeah. Sorry about that. This man sucks. But I'm glad that I got this taken care of before I get into the segments. So we do have some fun stuff. We've got Rudy Giuliani. Talking about some pardons. Interesting. So a little bit of pardon stuff that we're talking about. And then we've got a stimulus deal, maybe, that has been unleashed by the bipartisan, right? Oh, okay. All right. Fun. And then we've got Donald Trump, of course, raging at Republicans. We've got the Biden scandal. What happened to the Hunter Biden scandal? What happened to Hunter Biden's laptop? We've got the story on that. You're going to love that. And then, again, we're going to talk about bipartisanship with Joe Manchin. There's an article out in the New York Times. Lots of fun. Dango Bangle says, war on Thanksgiving has ended. The war on Christmas has begun. Yes, fellow warriors. We'll do it. All right. And yes, that is new evidence here. I'm sorry, a new story here from Bill Barr saying that there is no evidence of voter fraud. Fun. But anyway, we'll get to all that stuff. First, let's go to Rudy. You'll love this one. It appears that Rudy Giuliani has discussed the possibility with President Donald Trump that he could receive a presidential pardon. This is according to a report in the New York Times. The Times reported on Tuesday that the two men had the pardon discussion as recently as last week, even discussing a preemptive pardon. That's really strange. So now, my question is, why would you need a pardon if you didn't do anything wrong? I mean, that's kind of strange. I mean, look, Rudy Giuliani hasn't been charged with any crimes. Why would you need a pardon? Why? I mean, maybe, okay, maybe not yet, but like, gee, I wonder what they're expecting. There could be some issues here. So there is two possibilities actually with this. And one of them is they're either dumb enough to believe that Joe Biden is just like them and will vindictively come after them the way that they plan to come after Joe Biden. Which could be plausible if you lived on in the insane world of right-wing media. You think, oh yeah, it's coming after us, coming at just Joe Biden. Yeah. In reality, Joe Biden's not coming after anybody. I mean, he should if there's evidence of a crime. And my guess is you dig a little deeper, like you do any digging at all into both Giuliani and Donald Trump, you're going to find crime. You're going to find crime. There's crime. But Biden, look, he's already doing we need to look forward, not backwards. We need to heal the nation, old as okay. And so, I don't think that's going to happen. The other possibility is he knows something and he wants cover. Gee, I wonder why that could be. Fascinating. Really. So, look, for Trump, I know that Donald Trump has some of the Southern District of New York stuff coming down the pike. Thing is, he should probably be aware that a federal pardon will not actually do anything about that. It will not prevent you from being charged in a crime or for a crime in the state. He's likely not smart enough to know this. And maybe Rudy Giuliani, maybe he's expecting trouble. I guess I would almost guarantee it. You don't talk about that for no reason. You don't talk about pardons for no reason. That said, shortly after the report was published, Giuliani fiercely denied that such a discussion took place, stating on Twitter, the Times is lying, that he never had a discussion that they falsely attribute to an anonymous source. Rudy Giuliani has responded, of course, that this report is false and that such a conversation never happened. So okay, so let me go through. Apparently, I'm having some issues here with the sound, and so I'm gonna take a break, come back, and I'm gonna work on that and see if we can. Okay, because apparently we got problems. I'll have to do the whole segment all over again. So stay right here. We'll be back. Okay. Oh, that's pretty loud. All right, so let's stop about here. Okay. Hopefully, everybody can hear me okay, and we've stopped out with the issues. I think we had too much gain here, so hopefully everything works out okay, and you're not missing any of this wonderful commentary. No, there was no cable chewing. Kitty does not actually chew, and so better. See, there's a gain issue. Sometimes it just picks up too much, so it's weird. But okay. let's let's start this over again. I'm sorry I have to do a whole segment here. Is it cutting out again? What is going on here? Did it just cut out? Is it cutting out worse now? Oh my! You gotta be kidding me. Um, it's better now. It's cutting out. It's better. It's cutting out. It's worse. Holy crap! Okay, so let me do this again. All right, welcome back. Hopefully this sounds a little bit better. Switch to the oldie but goodie for now. All right, so guys, y'all didn't miss much. Apparently, I've had a whole lot of sound problems here. Trying something new. But hey, you got to do new things. You got to do new things. Try new things. I think I'm just going to replace that. And so, anyway, let's get back to the show. Darn, I was really hoping to be able to use that too, because there's so much, like, room that, like, I need it's not even an issue of a bigger desk. I have a really big desk, but I don't know. I need room on my desk for all my things. So, yeah. That other mic doesn't seem to work well. It worked well yesterday. And I did do practice yesterday, Adrian. That's why I was off. You know what I mean? Because I did like 3 YouTube videos with that. So let's get a ceiling mic. I don't have one of those. Anyway, let's get back to it. So let's start over with the Giuliani story. All right. So it appears that Rudy Giuliani has discussed the possibility of, with President Trump, that there could be some pardons in the future. In fact, Giuliani is reportedly asked President Trump, or at least they reportedly discussed, having a presidential pardon. This is according to a report in the New York Times. The Times reported on Tuesday that the two men had the pardon discussion as recently as last week. So now, among the discussions was a preemptive pardon. Well, now, my question is, why would you need a preemptive pardon if you hadn't done anything wrong? Giuliani has not been charged with a crime. He has not been charged with any crimes so far. But then again, it kind of makes you think, maybe they're expecting crime? I don't know. I mean, there's 2 different possibilities here. They're either dumb enough to believe that Joe Biden is just like them and would vindictively go after them. Look, Republicans have been planning to do impeachments and all this stuff. We'll see if it happens. Since Joe Biden has won, what kind of investigations they're going to open up. But look, they plan to come after Biden anyway, whether Donald Trump won or lost the election. And so that's totally plausible. Okay. And so that is if you lived in the insane world of course, right-wing media. In reality, we know Joe Biden is not going to come after them. Why? Because, well, Joe Biden is doing the whole BS, we look forward, not backward, doing the same thing that Barack Obama had done. And so, we got to heal the nation, work with Republicans. Right, the same way that, and that the Republicans, of course, worked with you during the Obama administration. In fact, the only thing that I remember Republicans working on you with is trying to cut Social Security. Yeah, so there you go, right? Now, the other possibility is he's done something, he knows it, and he wants cover. And what that could be, I wonder. I mean, it's not as if Giuliani hasn't been implicated in things like related to Ukraine and all that stuff, so he might be asking, pardon, is while you've got the ability, pardon me, please. Please, I need it. But, as far as, look, that's Giuliani. Trump's got his own issues. But those are issues that, at least one of them, he can't really pardon himself from. And that's the Southern District of New York. All right. A lot of that stuff's coming down the pike. And guess what? Presidential pardons don't really work when it comes to state charges and state crimes. So it only applies to federal stuff. And so I don't know what Giuliani then is really trying to defend himself from by allegedly asking for this early pardon, this preemptive pardon. That said, shortly after this report, you had Giuliani going and fiercely denying that this had happened, defending himself. He said, the Times, they're lying. We never had this discussion. We never talked about pardons. In fact, according to Giuliani attorney, which is funny because Giuliani is an attorney who also needs an attorney. Weird. Has responded that this report is false and as such a conversation never happened. It is just another false attack. Sure. Look, do I think that Donald Trump's going to be on a pardon spree? Of course. He's already pardoned Michael Flynn. And now people are wondering, who's next? But for me, it would seem to be rather unprecedented. Like, I haven't seen this before. Somebody getting a preemptive pardon. I didn't even think that was possible. He hasn't been accused of a crime. And so the idea of people having this discussion, it kind of makes you wonder, what exactly are they thinking? What are they expecting to happen? Just, it's weird. It's fucking weird. All right. Anyway. Oh, did Nixon? I didn't know that. All right. On Monday, one-term President Donald Trump went after Republican governors of Arizona and Georgia for certifying the election results, saying that yes, or confirming that he did indeed lose. So now, one person whom the president retweeted said, "You allowed your state to be scammed." This is to Brian Kemp of Georgia. "You allowed your state to be scammed. We must check signatures and count signed envelopes against ballots, then call off election, and just steal the, and we all need I'm sorry. Let me start that tweet again here. "You allowed your state to be scammed. We must check signatures and count signed envelopes against ballots, then call off election. It won't be needed. We will all win." Call off the election. So that's what he said. Call off the election. Then we win. I mean, don't you see how easy that is? Wow, look at that. To steal the election. Now, the one that, by the way, happened nearly a month ago. And he's still on this, he's on his bullshit. Still. In fact, earlier, Tuesday, he tweeted this. "We won Michigan by a lot." Nope, no, he didn't. No. Fake election results in Nevada also. Nope. Here's him responding to somebody calling Governor Ducey a betrayer of the people of Arizona. True. That's what he says. Now, which people? The people of Arizona. It wouldn't be the massive, like the majority of people who voted for Biden, would it? No, of course not. The raging continues with him retweeting such notable conservative heavyweights such as Cernovich and Cat Turd. No, I'm not kidding. There's somebody named Cat Turd who apparently is a huge conservative influencer on social media. Here's what he said. "They never thought Trump and we the people would call BS and fight back hard. They were wrong." What are you talking about? What? Okay, you know what? The people are calling bullshit on Donald Trump's efforts to try to steal the election. He's trying to invalidate millions of legal votes because they happen to be not for him. I mean, that's his criteria for invalidating those votes. Come on, dude. No, but there's more. Cat Turd also mentions Rudy Giuliani is presenting a ton of evidence. "If you ignore or refuse to look at the mountain of evidence being presented, save your breath barking to us about there being no evidence. You can have it both ways." Okay, all right, I'll bite. So you keep using the word evidence, but I'm not sure you really know what that means anymore. I mean, judges, look, we've had how many court cases? Almost 40 of them? Tons of court cases, okay? 39 of them so far. One of them won on a technicality and threw out, a couple hundred votes, ballots that were late. That was it. And then the rest of them, they lost. So now, if you had this mountain of evidence, if Giuliani had a mountain of evidence, would they have not used it to win these court cases? I mean, isn't that what you do with evidence? You present that evidence in front of a court in order to try to win. Again, words don't have any meaning anymore. Okay, and look, and here's the thing: they know their evidence really isn't evidence. Okay, and they know, the lawyers themselves, they know that they can't sit there and present hearsay in front of a judge and say, "Oh no, this is great evidence." It's not. It's not. And worse, if you lie under oath, well, I mean, you're gonna get disbarred at the very least. This mountain of evidence of what it really is it's just shit. It's just a giant mountain of turds from cat turd, essentially. So look, I mean, the whole thing can be compared to a Project Veritas video, again, where there's no evidence, there's selectively edited, and really the result is the same: bullshit, riling up conservatives, and then get trending on social media, and then absolutely nothing comes from it. And that's it. And that's really it. They get the idiots and they get the conspiracy theorists, and sometimes there's a lot of overlap between the two. They get them stirred up. And understand, this is who the Republican Party is at this point. They're a fringe conspiracy party. Whereas the Democrats have become the new conservative party. I don't know if you know that. And we don't have any leftist representation in basically anywhere in government at this point. And besides a handful of social democrats in Congress, you know, AOC, Jamal Bowman, Cory Bush, etc. This is as left as they get. Okay? Stock Dems, which of course compared to the rest of the world is pretty centrist. So, and look, in the rest of the world, stock Dems are essentially the norm. Okay? But in America, we're considered to be crazy, when in reality, we have one party that is basically a conspiracy-driven cult, wholly devoted to Donald Trump, and then you have another party that is wholly wedded to corporate interests. And that's what you have, unfortunately. And so I don't think Republican leaders quite understand the Frankenstein's monster that they have unleashed. And I'm not talking about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is like part of that. I'm talking about the base. Now, this base overwhelmingly loves Donald Trump because they think he's just like them. In reality, they're a mirror, or he's a mirror, and he basically allows them to be the worst, shittiest version of themselves. Okay, and so they love Donald Trump because he allows them to be that way. Pushes falsehoods, pushes fake news, doesn't believe in science, doesn't believe in facts, and thinks that at least a third of our population shouldn't exist. It's about time we really address who we're dealing with here and call them out for what they are. And I know that conservatives, I mean, their heads explode, right? How dare you? How dare you call us that? How dare you call us deplorables? That makes us run towards the right even further. Well, there are people who are pretty deplorable. That said, that doesn't mean I don't want to bring people over to the left. That doesn't mean that, like, I'm not going to have a conversation with conservatives to try to bring them over to our side, to try to unbrainwash them, to get them out of the cult, so to speak, right? And to really work towards building a real leftist movement that is based on racial, social, environmental justice. All that stuff. We can do that. That can be done. And I think you can definitely reach some of those people. There's a lot of leftists that are trying, and there are a lot of leftists that have been fairly successful in turning some people away from the right wing and over to the left to agree with leftist policies, to disavow the blatant racism, xenophobia, and all the stuff that we see from the right wing. But then, of course, there are people who are too far gone, that are being egged on by Trump, conservative media. And what we do is we have to figure out how to get past those people and how to push, corporate Democrats, push past corporate Democrats and to push and to get a real leftist movement in this country and to get leftists elected and into power. And we've got to figure out how to navigate all this as a lefty movement in order to do that. And you know why? Because, well, one reason is, of course, we make the country better. And the other one is so we can avoid people like Donald Trump and avoid, having them ever attained the, any kind of power in this country ever again. Yeah, cat turd, definitely. A lot of people are talking about cat turd. It's, you know what? It wasn't. It's their name. It's their name on Twitter. It's crazy. I know. Okay. Anyway, moving on. Let's go to the stimulus plan. Yay. Okay. A new bipartisan stimulus proposal is set to be announced today. And it's actually about as terrible as you can imagine, coming from the likes of deal makers such as Mitt Romney, Joe Manchin, Suzanne Collins, and Lisa Murkowski. So now, the deal, let me give you the details about it. It would actually cost about $908 billion, so it's actually, a lot less than what Democrats in the House have been pushing for, and just a little bit more than what Republicans in the Senate have been pushing for. And so let me give you some of the details of what's in it from the Washington Post. It's from Jeff Stein. He said that this would provide about $300 a week in federal unemployment benefits, a lower amount than the $600 per week sought by Democrats, while still offering substantial relief to tens of millions of jobless Americans for 4 months. Oh. The funding, the Washington Post also reported that the agreement includes $240 billion in funding for state and local governments and a 6-month moratorium on some coronavirus-related lawsuits against firms and other entities. Oh, look at that. Other things involved in this bill, $10 billion for the post office, $4 billion for student loans, $16 billion for vaccine rollouts, $45 billion in bailouts for the airlines. Oh. And then $26 billion for nutrition/agriculture. And so now if you were wondering, wait, what about the stimulus check? Is there going to be a stimulus check? No, there is none. It's not included. They're not adding this at all. But hey, corporations, at least you get your liability shield. Yay. Come on. What a disastrously bad deal. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Even ignoring the stimulus checks, by the way, the expanded unemployment is even less generous than Trump was. Remember, Donald Trump approved one, $300 plus an additional $100 benefit from the states, paid for by the states. So that's about half of what the Democrats in the House have been pushing. So that's garbage. It's absolute trash. Okay, this bill is basically, why don't you eat cake? And that's what it is. And right now, with so many people, like aid has, the aid's run out from the last coronavirus stimulus bill. You have bills that are piled up. People that are unable to afford basic expenses that have been skipping out on paying rent because of the moratoriums because they can't afford it. Utility bills have been mounting. This with no stimulus? What a disaster. Holy shit. This is bad. And here's the thing. So everybody's calling this a stimulus measure, right? It really isn't, though. I mean, what does that even mean? Right? Words don't have a meaning anymore in this country, apparently. They keep using the word stimulus, but it ain't stimulated anything, really. They're calling it the wrong thing. I mean, look, stimulus is supposed to get the economy moving by making sure Americans can not only support themselves, pay their bills, etc., but then go out and spend money to stimulate their local economies. Okay? And that's through the purchase of goods and services. This is not a stimulus. This shouldn't be called a stimulus at all. This legislation right now, and I can argue the CARES Act was essentially the same thing. It was to prevent millions of people from being thrown into poverty. See, here's how things would work out if we had a functional democracy. The government would step in to support citizens with a UBI while the lockdowns are in place. We see this in Europe, where they do have generous UBI systems, where they do have at least some countries going with paying people 70% of their wages from their paychecks, which, again, their wages are generally higher in those countries. And so it tends to work out, but they also combine it with healthcare and other safety net programs. That ensures, of course, that people are not only able to keep up with their bills, but also when the economy opens back up, they've got a little bit of savings. They can resume spending. That, of course, feeds the virtuous cycle of more spending. Companies, with more demand, they end up hiring more, et cetera, right? In America, what have we done? Nothing. Our measures have been lackluster at best. We gave some people a one-time stimulus check. And yes, the unemployment benefits were good, $600. That should be the standard. And it was, created out of a formula that, shows that people would need that much to resume former economic activity and to be able to keep up with their bills. But like the rest of the aid in the CARES Act went directly to corporations. And then we pushed for reopening too soon. So, look, the result is, again, you've got over 250,000 Americans dead, 13 million people that are infected, hospitals that are overrun, 20 million people are at risk of being homeless, food banks are running out because the demand is so high. You've got cars that sometimes line up blocks away for basic supplies. Millions more are in danger of losing their utilities. Small businesses and hotels and restaurants, they're closing permanently in some cases. That increases unemployment because they're not going to open up. You can't open up something that is closed permanently after, the recession is over, after everything opens back up. It's just not it's not going to happen. So you have people that are permanently unemployed now, and of course business owners that are in massive amounts of debt. And this stimulus, quote unquote stimulus, is the best that these idiots can come up with on Capitol Hill. Broken. This is broken. This is a broken country. We have become the shiniest third world country in the world. And I forget who said it, but America is basically a third world country with a Gucci belt. That's such a great quote. But look, again, suffice to say, the response to this was about as lukewarm as expected. With Malcolm Harris saying, "Wow, sounds very lousy." Yeah. Another person says, "No stimulus checks and a liability shield. It's kind of bipartisan compromise that you hear the American people screaming out for." Oh yes. Oh please give us that corporate liability. Oh, that nothing would be so good for us regular working people who are displaced by coronavirus than to make sure our corporations are protected from coronavirus liability. Come on, dude. Yeah. Jack Allison says, it kind of looks like shit, but I guess that's all we can expect in neoliberal nightmare US. 100%. 100%. And then finally, someone by the handle of Best Trousers says this: not as good as previous iterations of bipartisan proposals, far superior to the let 12 million people lose unemployment benefits in 25 days default. So, look, and by the way, Republicans would absolutely allow this to happen. You don't think that they would completely allow all this stuff to run out without doing anything? There's no reason for Mitch McConnell to do anything about this. Oh, for the good of the country, you say? When has it ever been a factor for Mitch McConnell? Look, right now we're on the edge of the cliff, right? In the same old status quo figures who barely did anything during the 2008 financial crisis, are still, for the most part, there. They're still in power. And of course, and if they're not in power, then the same mentality from 2008 is still there, especially when it comes to the Senate. And that mentality is, don't worry about the people, only help the corporations. Because, well, corporations, they fund us. They're our donors. They're the ones that really matter. And so we see the result of that mindset. And so, look, the only solution to this really is to get rid of the donors. You got to get the money out of politics. I mean, this is a great example. It's going to be cited for years, decades even, of how much the American government does not work for the people, but only works for their corporate donors. Where we couldn't pass a stimulus, a second stimulus check for millions of Americans that are hurting in the wealthiest country in the world. That we couldn't pass health care for the American people in the middle of a pandemic because corporate interests are so incredibly entrenched in our system of government that they only respond, the politicians only respond to them and not to the needs of the millions of Americans. Got to get the money out of politics. All right. Is that 3 stories already? Did we just get through 3? All right, well, let's move on. Oh, yeah, that's 3. All right, let's go to the next one. If you were unlucky enough to have watched Fox News during this election at all, you would know about the Hunter Biden laptop scandal. Yes, that scandal that was supposed to completely rock the political world, the October surprise that's going to knock Biden down and allow for Donald Trump to win a second term. And I guess if you ask some Republicans, that's exactly what happened, because they don't believe in the reality that Joe Biden actually got more, not only votes, but electoral votes. But again, that's in their world of alternative facts, and we actually live in the real world. So that said, in the days after the New York Post published this story that was allegedly, full of emails from Hunter Biden's supposed laptop, Fox News at first was kind of standoffish, a little bit. They weren't going to cut, they weren't going to talk about this. They weren't going to talk about the story. They're just like, oh, maybe, I don't know. I don't really like this. And then as soon as the president started talking about it, oh, here we go. They jumped all in it. The result is you had about 2 full weeks before the election. This is between October 19th and October 30th, having a field day with this. For example, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and Laura Ingraham ran nonstop segments pushing the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden corruption story in about 28 of 30 of their shows. They sometimes even dedicated multiple segments in 1 hour into covering that one story. I mean, they were just obsessed with the laptop, obsessed with the Hunter Biden emails, which, of course, probably was there to kind of like recreate the so-called magic of the Hillary Clinton emails. So, in total, and the numbers here are insane, roughly a quarter of Fox News' airtime between 8 and 11, 351 minutes, or just under six full hours, was dedicated to this story, to the Biden laptop. Other than general campaign updates, this story was the most dominant through line on the network's primetime coverage. They spent a lot of time on this, a ton of time. And it was supposed to be the biggest scandal in the world. How could you not devote so much time to it? In fact, You had guest David Marcus telling Laura Ingraham back on October 21st, "This scandal is not going anywhere. This scandal is very serious." Serious people saying very serious things. Hannity said, "It's a public corruption scandal that is growing by the hour and unraveling before our very eyes." Tucker Carlson on October 27th said, "It's a legitimate story. You're looking at a real threat to our democracy. You are watching it unfold. We are seeing it firsthand." And speaking of Tucker Carlson, by the way, no host in Fox News Primetime went all in as much as Tucker Carlson. I mean, he spent a total of 190 minutes talking about the different aspects of the story, breaking it all down, followed by Sean Hannity with 108 minutes and Laura Ingraham with 53. Yeah. So he even suggested, by the way, this is on October, his entire October 27th show was about interviewing Tony Bobulinski. So, look, he even suggested that there was a vast conspiracy involving the Postal Service. In fact, here's some of that.
But the Biden documents never arrived in Los Angeles. Tuesday morning, we received word from the shipping company that our package had been opened and the contents were missing. The documents had disappeared. Now, to its credit, the company took this very seriously and immediately began a search. They traced the envelope from the moment our producers dropped it off in Manhattan on Monday all the way to 3:44 a.m. yesterday morning. That's when an employee at a sorting facility in another state noticed that our package was open and empty. Apparently, it had been opened. So the company's security team interviewed every one of its employees who touched the envelope we sent. They searched the plane and the trucks that carried it. They went through the office in New York where our producer dropped that package off. They combed the entire cavernous sorting facility. They used pictures of what we had sent so that searchers would know what to look for. They went far and beyond, but they found nothing. Those documents have vanished. As of tonight, the company has no idea and no working theory even about what happened to this trove of materials, documents that are directly relevant to the presidential campaign just 6 days from now. We spoke to executives at that company a few hours ago. They seemed baffled and deeply bothered by this, and so are we.
I think it was the next day or the day after they found the supposed trove of documents. Interestingly enough, not long after that, after they found it, not only did they not have a bombshell, but Tucker Carlson is like, "I think we should leave Hunter Biden alone." And they never talked about this again. But you know what? When he interviewed Bobulinski, he got a ton of viewers. I mean, tons and tons, millions of views. One of the most watched cable events, at least on Fox News. Okay. And so, but it came out to be an absolute nothing burger. Nothing. Ridiculous. And so let me show you, I want to show you a chart here of what happened after the election. Okay. So election day comes and, you know, they're talking about this nonstop. And then afterwards, well, take a look. Whoops. Yeah. In the 2 weeks from Thursday, November 5th through November 19th, as you can see, Fox News primetime host said those words: Hunter Biden, laptop, threat to democracy, about 12 times. 12. In what was less than 10 minutes of discussion about what they had previously considered to be one of the biggest threats to democracy across nearly 25 hours of airtime. Do you see that? Tucker Carlson, that's the most interesting one, right? Because that's 42% of his airtime, 190 minutes down to 0.2%. He actually had the biggest drop off. You know what this is? It's a caravan all over again. You guys remember the caravan, right? I mean, the caravan of migrants that was supposed to come in and, oh, they're such a big threat. Even, ISIS apparently was part of the caravan. What happened to the caravan? Nothing. Election day came and they stopped talking about the caravan. So, look, this is ridiculous. Okay. And I think the biggest driver here is Donald Trump. Donald Trump stopped talking about the caravan, right? You also had Donald Trump stop talking about the Hunter Biden stuff. Now he's moved on, of course, to I actually won the election, which he didn't. But that's what's going on. It's almost as if Donald Trump is driving Fox News coverage while simultaneously consuming and regurgitating Fox News coverage. Just like he's always done, basically. It's almost like an Ouroboros, or I would like to liken it to a human centipede. But which one is the one in the front? That's really important. That's an important question. I'm asking the hard questions here. But seriously, though, the reason that this came to nothing is because there was nothing involved. This was nothing. This was another conspiracy theory. This is more bullshit. This is another gotcha, which was dropped as soon as the election was over. It was never anything more than an attempt to rile up their base, to get massive viewership numbers, of course, from MAGA chuds that are essentially going to get high on copium. And that's what it is. And now, of course, their new cope is voter fraud, which, like this, is basically nothing. But they're going to trot it out. I'm not going to be surprised that as soon as Biden starts getting into power, a little after a while, they'll start bringing up investigations into Hunter Biden's laptop, just like they did with Benghazi, just like they were going to do with Hillary Clinton's emails, just like they're going to do with basically anything, because they are not interested in facts at all. They're certainly not interested in policy discussions. Whoa, policy. Whoa, never going to talk about that. No, we're going to talk about this because it riles at the base. It helps feed the addiction to conspiracies that the right wing has, because they don't have anything else. That's it. All right. One more here. All right. Recently, Joe Manchin was featured in a New York Times article, and that article is pretty awful. And not necessarily because of who wrote it or anything like that, but because of what Manchin has said in this article. Now, in this, basically Joe Manchin, he basically said that this was a golden opportunity to get his kind of bipartisanship. And that's kind of what it was about. So let me go through it, right? They write that with President-elect Joe Biden preparing to govern from the middle in a Congress whose thin majorities will force him to compromise on almost every priority, Mr. Manchin, a centrist, suddenly finds himself at the center of relevance in the nation's capital. So let me just stop right there and point out how Joe Manchin is definitely not a centrist. He's a conservative. He's basically a Republican in everything but name. Tell me one progressive thing that Joe Manchin has stood for. Oh, but he tried to pass gun control. You don't understand. Gun control is like what? Over 90% of Americans favor some form of gun control. And that's things like, common sense measures. Like, making sure that people get background checks before gun purchases, things like that. Very, very simple common sense things. Okay. So you can't really say, well, I'm a centrist because I believe in like gun control. Well, I guess if you compare it to the Republican Party, who doesn't believe in any gun control, in fact, they've wanted to allow blind people to be able to buy and own guns. And so I guess if you're looking at crazy town over on the the right wing, and you look at very moderate gun controls presented by the Democratic Party, certainly nothing that's super quote unquote lefty, which by the way, it doesn't even apply to being a left-right issue really, because there's a lot of leftists who are incredibly pro-gun. And so it's been turned into this ridiculous right-left issue when in reality, it really isn't. It's common sense versus insanity. And so fortunately, the Democrats, they don't get to crow about being for common sense when all you have on the other side is insanity. So you don't get any credit for that. I'm not going to give you any credit. That said, he's going to try and take it. Oh man, isn't he? They wrote, in his office in a recent afternoon, Mr. Manchin was feeling energized. He paged through a proposal he was developing for a new coronavirus relief deal and said he was imagining a more moderate course for Congress. Quote, I think we have a golden opportunity to bring the country back together and for us to work in the middle, said Mr. Manchin excitedly. Oh my God. A little reminder here about Manchin's COVID bill that he had signed on to. He's the only the Democrat that has put his name publicly on this piece of legislation. The rest is just Republicans. Suzanne Collins, Lisa Murkowski, and Mitt Romney, right? So, and by the way, they're almost exactly the same when it comes to policy positions. But this COVID bill, it's about $908 billion. It gives $45 billion in bailouts to the airlines. No stimulus checks, $300 a week in additional unemployment benefits. The lion's share of the bill goes to corporations, and that's it. It's a terrible deal. It's awful. This guy's excited about this. He's like, yeah, centrism. Woo! Okay. This is exactly, by the way, what you can expect for the next 4 years. This kind of corporate welfare mixed with austerity. But like we knew this when we said, look, when we lost a primary, when progressives lost, when Bernie Sanders was out, okay, and Joe Biden became the nominee, we knew that this is what we were in for the next 4 years. It's unfortunate, but true. And so here we are. It's going to be a disaster. But back to Manchin. Like other corporate Democrats, they're pushing the idea that it's the far left of the Democratic Party that is the real problem. They're the ones that failed to win majorities in Congress. Those are the ones that you can't work with. And here's what he said. I'll tell you the reason why the numbers are so close with what the Democratic House members lost. For Nancy Pelosi, she's going to have to work with people that have a more moderate view than some of the people who pushed her from the left. Okay, well, here's the thing. You know the people who lost seats in this election mostly were centrists. DSA-backed candidates, they won a majority of their races. The Squad won re-election easily, and they expanded their numbers. And they did do it by running on centrism. No, they did it running on the Green New Deal. Ed Markey, for example. Ed Markey ran on the Green New Deal. AOC, Jamal Bowman, Medicare for All. These are really popular things, okay? And yet, unfortunately, we're in a situation where now centrists, yes, they lost seats in the House. They did not win seats in the Senate. The best that we can hope for is a 50-50 Senate. And that, of course, relies on Democrats winning in Georgia. And so, oh, great. And so now, this is the situation, by the way, that Joe Manchin loves. Because now you have to do bipartisanship. Now you have to do, you have to attract Republicans. And so now he's got a measure of power. And so that's what he wants. And here's what he said about bipartisanship. It behooves everybody to start working together. If they don't, it doesn't take many of us to say, guys, we've given all you a chance. We haven't done our job for the last 10 years, and we're going to start. But what's your job? I mean, your job is supposed to serve your constituents, right? Well, you're not doing that. You're not giving people what they want when it comes to, for example, healthcare, when it comes to, environmental issues. Since Joe Manchin consistently sides with oil companies and coal companies. And so what do you actually do? Who are you serving? Well, if your constituents are corporations, for example, then yeah, you're absolutely serving them. And that's it. And that's the problem. But worse, people like Manchin always dismiss the left, okay, who actually have policy positions that are helpful to the American people, and what Democrats can use to win elections on. But in the article, it says he's ready to do battle with the progressive left, whose ire he drew when in an interview this month with the Washington Examiner, he responded to a question about some liberals' calls to defund the police with, "Defund my butt." So the whole idea of taking some money from bloated police departments that is used on purchasing weapons, tactical weapons and gear that is surplus military, and instead of using that money to buy guns and tanks and Bearcats, instead putting it into things that, might actually solve the root of criminal behavior. Addiction, poverty, mental health. His response to this is, defund my butt. Love to. Very classy response. In response to this, by the way, AOC posted a photo on Twitter of her glaring at Mr. Manchin, which is always fun. And he responded to it by saying, "I guess she put the dagger stare on me. I don't know the young lady. I really don't. Well, maybe you should talk to her. You might find out that she has actually pretty good ideas." But no, he says, "I never met her. I'm understanding she's not that active with her bills or in committee. She's more active on Twitter than anything else." Oh, really? More active on Twitter, you say? Okay, well, challenge accepted. I'll look it up. In the most recent session, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sponsored or co-sponsored 553 pieces of legislation. Oh, well, okay. All right. So now, what about Joe Manchin? What has Joe Manchin done? Well, in the most recent session, and again, there's a difference between the House and the Senate, obviously, but Joe Manchin only sponsored or co-sponsored 423 bills. With each of them, that actually became a law. So it appears that she seems to have been a little bit more active, not just on Twitter, but also in doing her job. What have you done, Joe Manchin? And not only that, but she has also raised money for other Democrats. I would say that she kind of wins this a little bit. What a clown. Okay, but there's more. Lauren Hitt, who's a spokeswoman for AOC, said that she had submitted more amendments than 90% of other freshman Democrats, including those promoting fair housing and a tear gas ban that had passed the House, and had missed fewer votes than Joe Manchin himself. The Congresswoman, she says, has earned a reputation as a tough, prepared member in committee hearings. And you've all seen the videos, of course, of her going and grilling certain people, whether it be, CEOs or members of the Trump administration. And so, the only explanation I would have for Joe Manchin not being as active, not only, not on Twitter or in his job, is that he's spending a lot of his time going and begging private donors for cash. Yeah. Now, he also said this: "We're not going to defund the police. We're not for the Green New Deal. That's not going to happen. We're not for Medicare for all. We can't even pay for Medicare for some." Oh, really? Who's we? I mean, you're speaking as if you speak for Democrats, Joe Manchin, which I can assure you, you are not. In fact, a Yale University poll conducted back in October found that 64% of voters themselves, just both Democrats, Republicans, Independents, whatever, support a Green New Deal. Data for Progress reported that 77% of Biden primary voters, these are people that supported Joe Biden in the primary. We're not talking about Bernie Sanders, progressives, people who voted for Elizabeth Warren or Tulsi Gabbard, anybody like that. No. These are 77% of Biden voters, primary voters, who wanted to see Biden win the nomination and become president. 77% of them said that they are committed to moving the United States to 100% of renewable energy and creating 10 million good-paying jobs. That sounds a lot like the Green New Deal. I mean, again, I'm going to tell you, Ed Markey wasn't exactly the most progressive member, but he embraced the Green New Deal, and guess what? He ran on it, and he won. I'm just saying, the vast majority of Americans, Democrats especially, support Medicare for all. The only thing that gets mixed support is defund the police, because nobody knows what it means. They think, oh, you're going to take away police completely. No, that's not the whole point. The point is to actually, in places like New York and LA, where the police departments have way too much power and influence in the government and end up getting these massive, massive budgets, of which they're never going to really need, and just use it to get, surplus military equipment, as I mentioned before. I mean, there are small towns in the middle of the country that are getting tanks. What do they need those for? What do they need those for? They don't. They don't. And so defunding that and giving back into the community, that's the whole point of defund the police. So, look, overall, though, Joe Manchin's full of shit. Joe Manchin doesn't represent Democrats, and that's fairly obvious from his rhetoric. And by the way, we can absolutely pay for Medicare for all. You know why? Because it actually saves money over our current system in the long run. It saves money. It saves money. So this is according to all these different studies that have been done on this. Even conservative studies have shown, oh, right, turns out Medicare for all saves money. Even though we wanted to have the study to try to debunk that, we couldn't. We just couldn't. And so I hate this guy. I think it's pretty clear. He's also against ending the filibuster, which McConnell has abused all throughout Obama's term, in order to get absolutely nothing done. He said, I will not vote to end the filibuster because that would, quote unquote, break the Senate. Quote, if you've got to blow up the Senate to do the right thing, then we've got the wrong people in the Senate. Well, goddamn. Finally, he said something that I agree with. Yes, we do have the wrong people in the Senate, Joe. You're one of them. And Mitch McConnell and Ted Cruz and Chuck Schumer and a lot of these senators are just garbage. Absolute garbage. But look, the thing is, the filibuster is kind of the reason why the Senate's broken in the first place. I mean, this was never meant to be a tool of complete obstruction. In the old days, you actually had to get up and literally filibuster. Now, all you have to do is invoke cloture, and then everything's blocked, tabled, you go home. You don't have to sit there and do Mr. Smith Goes to Washington anymore. No, you can just do whatever. And, block this legislation, which is what Mitch McConnell has always done. It has been twisted and perverted into something that is, basically used as a way to stop any sort of progress. But it makes people like Joe Manchin very happy because then you actually have to go and appeal to people like Joe Manchin. And that's where he gets his power. That's where he gets his influence. That's where he gets people kissing his ass because they finally need him. The so-called centrist. And so, look, he's not really a centrist. As I said, he's a Republican. He pretends to be a Democrat so that he can come off as being, oh, I'm super bipartisan. But really, he's filling a niche. And he does not want that niche to go away. He loves this because, again, he gets to feel important, like the Blue Dog Democrats, like the problem solvers, like all those people. Okay? And unfortunately for us, they don't do anything useful. But they do give a lot of cover to Republicans, corporate Democrats, and that is one of the big problems as well. They're gonna run cover for Joe Biden, not embracing progressive, embracing the progressive agenda. Look, I know we're gonna try to push left on him. It's not gonna happen. He's not gonna do anything because of people like Joe, and that's the problem. Okay, and that's one of the big problems here. Why we're not going to have progressive policies. And Joe Manchin, of course, is going to be able to cheer because he's helped in kneecapping the progressive agenda. And yet, at the same time, he's going to be able to be praised for pushing out these horrible, crappy deals. I'm so tired of the mainstream press. I mean, they put these guys on a pedestal. Joe Manchin is not courageous for standing up against AOC and the left. No, courage is standing against the establishment, against the powerful, not for it. I'm tired of the glowing articles. I'm tired of the praise for this bipartisanship that overwhelmingly ends up helping the wealthy and the powerful and the connected and large corporations. It is absolutely disgusting. And just, I'm tired of it. All right, that's it. Sorry about the sound issues that I had here today. Thank you for staying with me, for sticking with it, you know, through the difficulties. Hopefully you all enjoyed the show. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for the super chats, Dango and Sarge Tech. Much appreciated. Again, thank you for watching, becoming channel members. Make sure to support us on Patreon if you can. Help us out. And I've got a new sound system to go and look for. So we'll see if we can pick one of those up and try again with the whole not having my mic on screen. So all right, anyway. Love you guys. Thank you. And remember, change begins with you. Good night, nation. See you all later. Have a good one.
I like my meat tight. Tighten up my meat.
Wet ass P-word. There's some whores in this house.
Silent. Tolerate. Burmisia, they say, pronounce it Burmisia, a real beautiful company.
You're kicking me out the door. You're kicking me out the door.